I'm a big fan of this show, but one thing that still to this day I don't think we'll be able to answer is the age-old question of, did Tokoyami, was he born with his beak, or did he grow his beak as part of puberty?
Was he a bird baby, or did he turn into a bird boy one day?
And before we were recording, you actually brought up a great point about him specifically. Like, that's not his quirk.
Yeah, like, so there is the chief of police who is, it seems his quirk is just he is a dog man. Also, the principal, too. What's up with the principal? His quirk is like he's smart, a smart animal.
I don't know.
Does he have parents? Was he an animal and his quirk is he is a smart human, or was he a human and his quirk is smart animal?
Is Gang Orca from a family, or is he from a pod?
Centipede. What happened with Centipede? I don't want to know.
Centipeder. Let's get into it.
Yeah. Welcome to Bravery Punch, the shonen show, where part of becoming a hero is eating just a little bit of hair. I'm Kunai Kennie.
And I'm Doki Duffy.
And today we talk about My Hero Academia.
Today we are talking about My Hero Academia, also known as Boku no Hero Academia. I'm excited for this one.
Oh, yeah. And for listeners ahead, of course, there will be anime spoilers. No manga spoilers, but this is one of the first shows, anime, manga, we will be talking about where we have, I guess, some different levels of knowledge. I mean, we did JoJo's last episode, that is one, but this one is a little different because I'm caught up in the anime and you are caught up in the manga.
Yeah, it's actually the reverse of what we last did a little bit, which is fun. But I will be sticking to just the anime, even though I want to talk about those juicy manga spoilers. Hit us up on patreon.com to get my thoughts on the manga. We'll start off today with a little bit of background, but if you are listening to this show, you know My Hero. Whether you love it or not, you've definitely heard of it. After our little background, we're going to go into our history a little bit, what this show means to us, our journey with it. And then we'll take a quick break. What do we have coming up after the break?
After the break, we have the return of everybody's favorite Bravery Punch bit, 1-star platinum reviews, but a fun little twist added on to it. And after we do 1-star platinum review, we are going to do the classic Bravery Punch pillars of shonen. And how does My Hero fit into them? What do they do well on in the pillars? What do they fail on in the pillars? So that's a little bit of what's going on in today's Bravery Punch episode. So Duffy, let's get into it.
Yeah, make sure you're sticking around for everything, folks. We got a good one today. So My Hero, I didn't start reading the manga right away. Not like Promised Neverland situation. I started with the anime back in 2015. Oh, jumping ahead, let's give some of the background to the folks. So the anime did start in 2015. The manga, written by Horikoshi Kohei, or Kohei Horikoshi, started back in 2014 in Shonen Jump, and then just a quick year later, the anime started, and now it's, a huge phenomenon here today. Part of the new big three, who's to say? But it is very popular. I guess if you're a super Eye Patch Wolf fan, you know that's falling off a little bit in popularity in the manga, but the anime is still going strong, especially with its movies, and there's a season coming out right now, right?
Yeah, currently airing at the moment. I think it seemed as though this week they might have been on a slight break, but no, new episodes every Saturday for My Hero Academia. Catch them on whatever streaming platforms you can.
And so I had to ask, that was genuine, because I no longer watch the show. I've been reading it since even before the overhaul arc.
What made you decide to switch over to reading the manga? I feel like, we both watch a lot of anime, like Attack on Titan week to week. We've watched that. But what with My Hero made you want to read?
I just couldn't wait. I just needed more. So I think I was trying to remember the exact time it happened. So I started the anime back end of freshman year of college is when it aired, and I was hooked. It was good. But then season 2 is what really just blew me away. The tournament arc, you know what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
I think it was post that where I just needed more. I just couldn't wait. I knew the animation was really, really good, but I know I read the overhaul arc, which I feel like is close after that. Mm-hmm. So it was just not wanting to wait. I don't know, something about the characters and the story just gripped me and made me want more right then.
Yeah, no, I feel that. With me and My Hero, why it's so special to me is because I feel like during college, when I went to college, I didn't really have any anime friends. I kind of fell more into like a music scene and things like that, so I wasn't watching as much anime. And then you messaged me and texted me or something, and was just like, "You gotta check out My Hero. It's the new hot anime right now." And it was the first anime I started watching week to week again since, Attack on Titan, I guess, was the only other one I was watching at the time. But like, My Hero really brought me back into anime in a time when I was kind of like, not forgetting about it, but it just wasn't as big a part of my life again. And My Hero reminded me of so many of the things that I love about anime, and I think it's a top tier shonen because it's just got those shonen moments we love that we'll get into later on in the episode. But it just has those moments, I think, that make me love anime, and it reminded me like, oh my gosh, there's so much in this genre I just want to get into.
You read my mind there, because I think the first season, those first just like 12 episodes or whatever, are just refined shonen setup. There's nothing crazy there. We're not going to tell you it's like mind-blowing, but it was so comfortable but so polished and good that it just sucked right back in. And then after season 2, just blew up, and it was incredible.
And what I think is also kind of interesting about My Hero as well is it, a lot like Attack on Titan, it has really hit this mainstream stride of popularity where we see anime everywhere. Like, we just went to the mall.
Yeah, we did.
Over this weekend.
Supporting our local businesses.
So, yeah, supporting our local malls. And shout out Fox Run Mall, sponsor us if you want. But almost every store had some random anime tee, whether it be Naruto or My Hero Academia. There was like some little booth that had something anime related, which is just so wild. And for some odd reason, I think My Hero kind of caught that stride, and it might have kind of in part to do with the superhero aspect of it in a time when the MCU was so big in culture and media as well. Like, it is a superhero anime, so it kind of has a lot of those similar superhero tropes and elements that Americans are maybe more comfortable with. I don't know. I'm just kind of theorizing there.
It makes you think, why wasn't this done sooner? I mean, if you are listening and you know of a shonen superhero story like this that was done first, please let us know, because this seems like a no-brainer. We know maybe One Punch Man predated it or whatever, but especially with the MCU being so huge, this is just such a no-brainer. The story elements of the two genres really fit together. And you know a lot about the superhero side of it, right?
Yeah, I mean, not a ton. I just do know that the author is very inspired by Marvel. Spider-Man, namely, is his favorite superhero, and I think there's a lot of moments throughout the show where you can kind of see that superhero and that comic book inspiration. There's a moment when Deku, when he is first training with Gran Torino, and he realizes how to kind of truly use One for All to like put it throughout his body, and he's trying to like jump his way up like an alleyway wall, and something about that scene, I just was like, wow, this feels like something straight out of a Spider-Man comic book. Like when Spider-Man first gets the Spider-Man abilities and he's trying to like climb up the wall and shoot webs and things like that. There's just a lot of moments I feel that are not obviously like ripped right out of a comic book, but they have that inspiration. All Might just being kind of the Superman, the Captain America, that like hero, that pinnacle of hope, I think is just so comic book-esque at the heart of it. It's just all these kids, like Deku is just a comic book nerd, just like me. My room is littered with Batman things, just like Deku's room is littered with All Might things, where I think it's just something about all of that is so comfortable for me. When I see Deku, I'm like, oh my god, I want to be just like Deku. Like if Batman came up to me and was like, eat my hair and you can have my powers, I'd be like, all right, dog, let's do it.
And by that you just mean gaining money, right?
Yeah, I guess gaining money.
But my barely baked theory here that we're doing live on recording for the first time ever is that, I mean, last episode was JoJo's, right? And now we've got My Hero, and they both take a lot of influences from Western media, whether it's music, superheroes, and even Star Wars, as I might mention a little bit. They both definitely wear their references on their sleeves and do original things. I'm not saying that it is Spider-Man exactly or it is Superman, but I wonder if those Western influences allow it to be so popular and so easily accessible. I wonder. I don't know.
It could be. It could be. And you heard it here first on Bravery Punch, folks.
Cutting edge reporting. Another really important thing for me in getting to fall in love with this story in particular was the music from the anime. I don't know exactly the moment I messaged you about it when we were first watching it, but it was probably when You Say Run started to first play. You Say Run is the shonen song as far as I'm concerned. It plays during any epic moment, especially in season 1 when All Might goes like all out. Yuki Hayashi, the composer, just going off on this soundtrack, and now it is something I miss dearly as a manga reader. Like, I think the music really, really captured me in a way shonen music hasn't before. I don't know. What do you think about that?
I think it's epic. Like each moment when Deku is throwing out a big hit, or when All Might is like trying to just last in his all for one form, or Endeavor is giving it his all. Each one of those moments is just accented with such a beautiful soundtrack that makes the feel so much more stronger. And something I know we'll talk about later is like the feel that this shonen gives is just like unlike any other. And I think that soundtrack plays huge into that. One thing I guess I will say, you're talking about openings here. I think the show started out with some strong openings, but it's since kind of lost me. I feel like it's since they've just kind of fallen into some very generic sort of shonen openings, and there was a point where like each opening was really hitting and I was really jamming to them. But like this most recent season, both openings, like, I love it when an opening gets me jazzed up for the episode. I like when I watch the opening throughout each week. That's a fun experience when you're like hyped up dancing along to the opening. But they've lost me a little bit recently, I will say.
I wonder if they're just getting more comfortable and they're willing to experiment a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely the first two. They got Peace Sign, the lemon guy. It's like Yonezu, Kenshi. That was big. That guy's a big like pop singer in Japan. That was big for them for sure. And then the second one was incredible with the tournament arc. I don't know, maybe that's not the second one, but it was an early one with the tournament arc was so good. And then after that, I don't even know really.
And what is it about You Say Run that you call it the shonen song?
Well, when you are in the gym and you've got one last set to do and you want to feel like All Might, you want to feel like Deku just going beyond. That's what it's all about. It's just the epic driving and you just feel powerful, and it's the go beyond mentality that is so fundamental to shonen, but they vocalize it just so succinctly, and you just feel it. You need to go beyond. You need to push yourself past your limits, which is what all these characters are striving to do. That's why we love them.
Listeners, I will let you know that Doki Doki Duffy's workout playlist cover is a picture of Deku going plus ultra. If I'm
it's
still correct. Yeah.
Specifically him during the tournament arc where he's breaking his body. I know it's kind of a meme, but nothing is more shonen hero than breaking your body past its limits in order to surpass your enemy. Oh my god, Deku, so great. But yeah, You Say Run, and that's not the only one. Let me tell you, we got the My Hero Academia title track, I guess you'd call it. Very epic, sort of slow driving song. Bakusatsuo, which translates to Murder Explosion King. It's like Bakugo's theme. Incredible short pump up song. And then something Hayashi, the composer, does really, really well is build on You Say Run. It'd be one thing if it were used like every so often, like, oh, we know there's a big fight coming up, You Say Run's gonna play. That's kind of stopped happening, and I know I'm not super current on the anime, but they've kind of evolved the song where it comes up in little motifs. They have versions of it like Jet Set Run, which expands on it and makes it different, and I think that's really cool and keeps me hooked in while still feeling that plus ultra in my veins every time I hear it.
Yeah, no, it's a show that definitely uses its soundtrack well.
What about the animation? If we're still in the what got us hooked on it and what we kind of think about in our memory of it, what about the animation got you?
Yeah, I know. I feel like we need to be shouting out our animation studios more in each episode. Last episode, we had JoJo's Bizarre Adventure with David Production. Like, these animation studios put so much heart into the anime, and My Hero Academia is no exception with Bones.
Bones, I believe.
Yeah, Bones doing the animation, and it just, like, when the fights are happening, when there are the big flashy moments, they like do not hold back at all, and it is just absolutely beautiful. I mean, there are some kind of clunky moments, but those can be forgiven when we get these high action moments that are just like, I don't even know how to describe them. Like that Endeavor fight against one of the Nomus, it's just like breathtaking. The fire, like it just seems hand drawn. Like we see All Might fighting against All for One. It's just like all these moments are just, oh, so like we have the music, we have the animation, and just like the action is all like coming together in one moment, and Bones just does not sleep when the fights are happening, and I appreciate that so much.
This was my first experience with the seasonal anime, and so I really thought that was the secret to success here. Little did I know JoJo's was kind of already doing it like a couple years back, but when I saw these moments, even the end of season 1, I was like, this is something special. Like this doesn't happen in Naruto basically ever, which was the only big shonen I knew at the time. I think it owes a lot to that seasonal format. Is worked really well for it. I know I have a couple friends who might be listening now who say that the animation's fallen off, and I don't know. I can't speak to that. I know the art and mangas remain consistent, and from what I've seen in the anime, it's still good.
Yeah, I think it definitely doesn't hit the same way maybe you did when it started, but you know, it always pulls through kind of in moments when you want it to pull through, which always feels rewarding to some degree. And I think too, what's cool about the animation, you brought up JoJo, is it's kind of doing something similar to JoJo with similar to JoJo's, and also like Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, where like there's like word bubbles kind of popping on the screen, like pows and whams and like these comic book effects. And you know, when heroes are introduced and they're like screen and it tells you their quirk and everything, it just kind of feels like a comic book panel for a second when it freezes on those. So that's just like another nice animation tip, along with kind of the comic book side of My Hero Academia.
Yeah, I don't know if they always did that, but I definitely like it. It is kind of funny, though, when every time Deku's on screen, they tell you his quirk.
Yeah.
You should probably know it by now if you're watching, but I guess the casual viewers might forget. There's one last thing I want to get into for why I love this series before we get into the pillars. Before I dive into you know what, is there anything you want to say? I might go on a little spiel here.
Yeah. I guess this is just a show that has always made me feel so much, and I know you'll get probably into that in your next segment here, but I find, like, you know, in every shonen there's moments that give us the quote unquote feels, those feels moments. And something about My Hero, whenever Deku is just like going beyond his limit, whenever All Might is, whenever any character is like in that like moment of struggle, I just like well up and I just like start to cry. And I think more so than any other shonen, My Hero Academia just like inspires emotion in me for some odd reason. I don't know what it is. No matter,
it's surprising to me because I know this isn't like a top for you. So what kind of moments are we talking about here?
I just remember when he is saving like a water squirt kid.
Oh yeah,
but that's one of my like just favorite moments of the whole series, when he is just like going beyond his limit, pushing himself just to save someone. I just love those inspiring moments. And Endeavor, we talked about this earlier, like when he is doing everything he can to save everybody, to be the number one hero. That's just another moment that makes me want to cry too. And oh my gosh, what else? I've rewatched the beginning of My Hero with multiple girlfriends at different times. I don't know why, it's just a show I show girlfriends.
Mm-hmm. It's got those Western influences.
It does, yeah, it's got those Western influences. But anyway, I like, even just in season 1, All Might, when he shows up, and just when like everyone sees him, and it just like the look on everybody's face when All Might shows up. I remember like one time I was watching that and it just like made me really emotional. I was like, I don't know what it is about this show, but it just like really like, I think because maybe I can relate so much to just like that feeling of being in awe towards a superhero, that like just seeing it in this anime is just so exciting.
I'm so glad you share that with me and the listeners, because I feel the same way. I think this show, well, not so much about the superhero. I think that's really interesting. But something about this anime is so powerful. Like, when you were talking about All Might, I was thinking of All Might versus All for One. Mm-hmm. When he has United States of Smash, and then he stands with his fist raised.
Yeah.
How can you not love that?
Yeah.
It's just so good.
It's your turn now.
Oh my God, it's your turn now. Oh, incredible. I'm getting a little tingles right now. And if we're talking feelings, Austin, and dear listeners, if we're talking feelings, we have to talk about the emotional core of this story is not Deku. It's not All Might. It doesn't even make its way until season 2 of the anime. Yeah, that's right. We're here to talk about the mother flippin' Todoroki family, okay? Because no other shonen would have you rooting for a formerly abusive dad. But this show does. This show does. We've talked about this Nomu Endeavor fight a bunch. I'm going to pause there for a moment. And I want to talk about this family just like from the first time we see them. Because Todoroki is kind of this bad guy. He's kind of this bad boy. He's very cold, literally and figuratively, to Deku. And we learn that his father's been abusive. His mother has really been affected by it and abused him in return. It's a messy situation. Stuff doesn't usually get covered like that in shonen. It's kind of funny. I mean, I'm watching JoJo's right now, and so family is a big aspect of that. But it's done differently. It's very supportive, but very different kind of family, I guess. And this family really goes, they don't shy away. They don't shy away from some of the dirty, bad parts of family, especially when it comes to the abuse. And one way I think this story really shines is after the tournament arc. We have the Deku moment, incredible, where he yells at Shoto Todoroki saying, "It's your power, isn't it? Like, you can use the fire, make it your own." And Todoroki realizes he can. He has this beautiful smile, and then he wipes the floor with Deku. And it's incredible. And I feel like any other story, any other shonen would just leave it there and just say they fixed the family. Deku yelled at him, friendship power activated, and we're good. I'm even lumping like One Piece in here. I just feel like with other shonen, that's where it ends. Mm-hmm. But throughout arcs after that moment, we see Todoroki, the kid, go to like the hospital where his mom is staying. I don't know what the proper term for it is. She's in like a mental ward because she's got a lot of issues. And we see him go to her and continuously talk to her and try to work things out. And slowly we see the family come together. Endeavor's not in the picture, but his siblings and his mom slowly start to have a relationship again. And that's just so beautiful. I don't feel like we see that in other shonen stories.
No, that's a great point. It is always so like quickly resolved. Like Naruto, for example, just like sees his mom and dad and is like, "Oh, I forgive you for putting a demon wolf in me and for ruining my whole childhood."
Demon fox, my God.
Sorry, demon fox. Sorry, but you know, it's just like it's crazy to think that like Naruto's just like, "Oh, you're my mom and dad, so I'll forgive you for putting this demon in me. That's cool. I love you." And all it took was a big inspirational speech.
Exactly. It's all about the talk no jutsu, right?
Yeah.
I actually remember liking that moment. We'll get to that in the Naruto episode. And then Horikoshi just like goes plus ultra on the family stuff, because it's not just that. It's not just, oh, we're going to make this a really realistic feeling family story. We're going to try to redeem this abusive dad now. We're going to make Endeavor a real character and give him like a lot to do, and it's crazy. Like, Endeavor easily could have just been like punched by Deku, maybe punched by Todoroki, and then he could have like
had a change of heart,
or he could have even maybe been like not in the picture anymore. I don't know. They could have made him weak or something, and they didn't do that. Horikoshi said, "No, this guy's gonna matter. He's the second most powerful. He's been a dick, but now it's time for him to get his little redemption arc." And so by the time we see him fighting the Nomu, I've seen that fight 3 times. I watched it in preparation for this episode. I cry every time. That fight, like, why is that fight so good? What do you think?
I think it's there's actual emotional stakes in this battle that we are invested in this point. It wasn't that, I don't know, I think one thing Naruto does is there's so many characters all over the place, and they have moments where they have a big fight. They're kind of the centerpiece, but we're only just seeing this character, and we're just experiencing kind of their flashbacks and all of this stuff, and it's just a lot to process in one fight. It takes like 3 or 4 episodes for them to kind of get through like telling their backstory and then telling the narrative of this fight, where in this Endeavor fight, we've already kind of learned the place that Endeavor's in mentally. Yes, there's kind of a few cuts and flashbacks here and there, but we are just fully caught up with this character. We know and love his son. It's just a fully realized character, fully realized world where it is just built up to this moment in a very subtle way that it wasn't something we expected to happen. It wasn't a fight that I knew I wanted, but like by the time it happened, I was like, oh my gosh, like I care about Endeavor and I realize why he needs to be strong right now, or else people would in the whole world would be terrified, because there's no more All Might, there's no more Endeavor who is there to protect them. I think there's just so many things in this whole moment that the show sets up really well. The whole hero structure of who needs to be number one, and the family, and there's just so much going on in this one fight that makes it so beautiful. And it's not even like it needs to explain it all in the fight, too. We know it by the time we're there.
And there's some beautiful moments of little characterization where the Todoroki's siblings are watching. They have different emotional reactions to this fight. And Shoto, who kind of experienced the brunt, I guess, of the abuse because he had the like eugenics quirks that were desired, even he can't bring himself to hate his dad. Like he deserves to. Like he should hate his dad by all means, but even he is watching with trepidation, and all he says during this fight is, "I'm watching," because Endeavor asked his son to watch him become a better hero, one that he could be proud of. And if that just doesn't make you emotional, oh my God, I don't know if there's help for you at that point. And just, this is just one fight. We've just talked about one fight in this show, and I think so many have that level of little characterization moments and just overwhelming emotions that we come to these stories for.
In shonen, we literally like never see family sometimes. It is never a big part of any story. It's just kind of like the hero is off on their adventure, and eventually you do learn about their mom and dad, but it's this whole kind of big secret. It's a big part of their character, but here in My Hero Academia, family is just kind of like a normal part of every kid's life, and we see that. We meet their parents. There's a whole there's a whole like episode or like couple chapters focused on like All Might and the teachers going around and talking to the parents and being like, this is what we're doing to keep your kids safe and stuff like that. And it's just cool that we're not forgetting about the family, and that we're seeing moms and dads and where these kids inherited their powers from and stuff like that. The whole inherited destiny is just, it's all over the place here.
You read my mind, or maybe you read my bullet points. The last thing I want to say in that family are two little things. One is to boost your point there that we don't usually see them. The author of One Piece, Eiichiro Oda, has said that moms are the bane of adventure. Because if you have a caring mom, of course she's not going to let you go. And we see All Might deal with that. We see Deku deal with that. He has to grovel to his mom. Like All Might has to beg for forgiveness, but for putting her son in danger. And though the mom maybe doesn't have a ton of agency here, I don't know. Like she's not so much a character, but she is an important reminder and motivator for both of them, for both All Might past his prime now and Deku. She even in the most recent chapter I read, or second most recent, she's seen in a flashback as this important thing that important person Deku is trying to protect, and it's really nice.
Yeah, I love that episode too, when we get to see like Bakugo's mom and Jiro's mom, and I don't know, it's just cute. I don't know, there's so many cute moments in the show too, like with them just kind of, they'll have like a big intense battle, and then it'll like the next episode they'll be like walking around a mall together, and it's just like, I don't know, those moments are really fun and cute and light, and I don't know, sometimes it can be a little boring. Sometimes the show might have like peaks and valleys, but I do always appreciate when it's like, oh wait, they are just high school kids doing high school things.
We are going to, I think we're going to take a quick break pretty soon, right?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's take a quick break here.
Stay tuned for after the break. We'll get into our heavy-hitting pillar analysis of My Hero. What does it do well? What does it fall short on? Stick around for the break. We've got a fake sponsor today that you don't want to miss. Stick around.
Excited here in the Bravery Punch studio today to bring our first pseudo sponsor, sort of. Otaku Palace Jewelry is an anime themed jewelry shop, and if you go check out their website, there is just some hot anime jewelry. I got a JoJo's Bizarre Adventure ring on right now. I just ordered a One Piece Trafalgar Law ring that's on its way in the mail. There's some Giorno Giovanna earrings that I'm gonna have to hop on soon. They got Demon Slayer rings, Demon Slayer necklaces, Dr. Stone. They got all your favorite shonen, and you gotta go over to their website now, otakupalace.store, and it's all like super reasonably priced, great merchandise. Go check it out now and before it sells out, because you're gonna want to get it. You're gonna look hot.
Be like Todoroki and get that ice. I was going for one other thing though. And if you want to keep getting the fire, make sure you are subscribed to Bravery Punch wherever you get podcasts. If you like the show, please give it a rating. Any rating helps. And feel free to share it with any anime fans around. The more the merrier.
Welcome back to Bravery Punch after a short break. And folks, I know you've all been just sitting at the edge of your seat throughout the whole episode, waiting for the return of everyone's favorite bit. Say it with me. 1-star platinum reviews. Woo. But this time, we got a fun twist on it. Last time, I was just reading you 1-star reviews of the Demon Slayer movie. But this time, I have added a game show element to it. And so I am going to read, I have a couple different 1-star reviews here. We can do 3 of them, I think will be good. But I will just be reading you a 1-star review of one of the animes that we've talked about in Bravery Punch here. And you have to guess off of the 1-star review which anime it is.
Ooh.
So again, I'm going to read you the review. And from that review, you have to guess which of the anime it is. And listeners, you probably can't see this, but we do have a wall of manga panels from the anime that we've talked about. So he kind of has a little guide here to help him out through the show.
I think I'm ready.
You ready to go? We ready for 1-star platinum reviews? Take 2?
Let's do it.
All right. I know this anime is supposed to be action and teens, but this is way too far. You see a bunch of naked people, and 2, it's so hideous that I actually got in trouble from my mom. It's also dumb how they make it too inappropriate for even teens. I'm glad they banned the last episode.
Ooh, okay, banning the last episode. Okay, naked people could actually really be all of them. There's been a lot of naked, there's been a lot of, in the JoJo's opening, sometimes there's naked stuff. Nudity's a big clue, and banning the last episode is a big clue as well. It makes me think it's concluded, and I feel like I gotta go with Soul Eater. I think I'm gonna lock in Soul Eater.
I'm sorry.
Oh no!
It's Attack on Titan. I don't know what they're talking about with the last episode being banned.
Wait, so the naked people they were talking about are the Titans?
The Titans, yeah.
Oh, that I wasn't even viewing
wasn't on that wavelength. Yeah.
All right, one for.
All right,
we can recover.
All right,
here.
so okay, here we go. All right, I have to do some censoring with this one. This is a long one, and I'll read some of it. But if you feel you need more, let me know. Okay. Watching blank is the equivalent of informing an acquaintance that you like mashed potatoes. That night, said acquaintance breaks into your house, ties you to a chair, and force feeds you mashed potatoes until you are bloated and biting back. The characters lack depth. There are no real moral gray areas here. Yet, this show is insistent on dressing itself up as something that is dark, edgy, and morally ambiguous. Watch Blank is exceptional at, however, is pretending it is a good series. When the opponents, Blank, are introduced, they are essentially identical in nature, with only variations in method. Throughout the series, we are basically watching one person play chess with themselves.
Ooh, that was cerebral. Like, wow. thinking about how the opponents are just reflections of ourselves.
Mashed potatoes.
Mashed potatoes. Okay, I'm assuming it's not Attack on Titan. I'm assuming we're not repeating here.
No.
Okay. And my gut instinct is JoJo's. But yeah, because it's got so many villains, but the first two parts don't. I don't know if you're going that specific. It's not going to be Promised Neverland. There aren't that many villains in it.
Like I said, this is a long one, so if you want a little bit more meat, I got meat for you.
All right, just give me a little bit more, just a little bit.
All right. When I say a chess game, it even fails at that. There are no stakes. There is no tension. And if we observe the aftermath, we find the entire series of events ultimately as meaningless as the plot itself.
Okay, it's got to be JoJo's. They're upset about the plot. Locking in JoJo's.
The writers were clearly hooked on the use of Deus Ex Machina to rescue blank at every turn. In any other situation, he would have been found out. Case in point, blank only defeats blank by using a rule that was introduced an episode or two earlier, clearly designed as a plot device to keep the show going.
Okay, well, you lost me with that last bit.
Are you still locking in with JoJo?
Yeah, let's just go for it.
And finally, Light's logic. Oh, sorry. I let it slip. I slipped.
They could have done a potato chip thing.
And finally, Light's logic is flawed, and I do not mean from a moral standpoint, but fundamentally at every turn. 9 times out of 10, his plans rely on risks and guesswork instead of actual certainty, which is poor writing for a character written as an intellectual.
They really missed a potato chip thing. And I guess what they were saying is that the last two, like Near and Mellow, are similar to.
I don't know, yeah.
But
it goes on here, but
wow, I don't think we need more of that one. But can we get one? I can get on the board here. I can get on the board. Yeah. Let's do one more.
All right, let's get you on the board here. The lead character gets immense strength just by doing nothing. There is no logical explanation of many situations considering the anime's universe itself. The climax situations are not acceptable for me, but the phases excluding the final one are nice.
The faces?
The phases.
The phases excluding the final one. That is weird. I mean, my brain is stuck on JoJo, I guess. But if they're not thinking about logic, it could be any shonen, really. Is that it? That's that whole review?
That's that whole review. But I could give you another one here.
Give me a little hint.
I can give you another review here.
Let's do it.
The ending was terrible. It was supposed to be Kid to beat it. The creator or the guy who brought that idea and the people who agreed to it are not good anime creator. You people who have said it was best, you have never watched many anime. You need to watch anime.
Soul Eater.
Yes.
Okay, we got one, folks.
It was Soul Eater.
It only took me 2 times guessing Soul Eater. But wow, yeah, those people were upset.
We got there, though. We got there. And that, folks, is 1-star platinum reviews. Take 2, Electric Boogaloo.
And now we return to your regularly scheduled Bravery Punch programming. We are going to talk about the 3 pillars of My Hero Academia.
And Duffy, for those listeners who maybe are just joining Bravery Punch for the first time here in this My Hero Academia episode, what are the Bravery Punch pillars of shonen anime?
Like the 3 pillar men of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Battle Tendency, there are 3 pillars
I'm so happy you can make that reference.
There are 3 pillars that hold up any good shonen. The first is a triumvirate. The hero, the hero's dream, and the inherited destiny all form the first pillar, that we call the hero. The second pillar is the power and progression system. Lots of flashy battles usually going on in these shonen. What is the thing that actually makes them work and is interesting? And then the last pillar is the crew, the supporting cast. Shonen is not just about our hero. It's about how friends work together. And so do we like the crew? Do we not? We'll find out.
There's a lot of elements in a shonen anime, but we find these 3 pillars, as we call them, to be the central points of why we love specific shonen. And when each pillar is delivered on, we find those to be our favorite shonen anime. So let's dive into it. My Hero Academia, pillar number 1, our hero, our dream, our inherited destiny, Deku. Tell me about him.
Everyone loves an underdog story. And Deku is a shonen hero that's the ultimate underdog in his world. In a world of X-Men, he is the normal guy who just wants to be like Wolverine. I don't actually know that much about X-Men. Wants to be, I don't know, the strongest hero.
Yeah.
And he's born with nothing. This is not a world where you can train to get stronger necessarily. It's a world where you're born with it or you're not. And he starts out with nothing. But then one day, after his studying and his really trials and tribulations, he is gifted this power of one for all from the number one hero in Japan, All Might. And we see Deku struggle to become the strongest and the best. And what's really interesting about Deku's hero and inherited destiny, I can't even fully divulge to you, Austin, or listeners, because you don't know it yet. But in signing up to get this power, he's fulfilling his dream, or he's taking the first step on his dream. But he's actually signing up for a lot more than he knew about. Because before he touched that dream, before he touched that hair, he was just a regular kid. But by taking on the thing that allows him to become the number one hero, he's wrapping himself up in something that's been generations in the making.
And I think that is kind of this inherited destiny, which we can talk a bit more about in a second here. But yeah, going back to Izuku Midoriya, his full name there for you all, not just Deku. What does Deku mean again? Isn't it just like...
I think it's like a puppet or a doll or something. It means like useless.
It means useless,
like,
but
like
also
the Deku tree.
But then it doesn't also mean useless or something.
It does
sometimes.
mean. I don't actually know. I never really came across that word in my studies.
Okay. Local Bravery Punch Japanese expert Doki Doki Duffy. But yeah, no, I think Midoriya is, as I was saying earlier, he is such a relatable hero for me, just being that kind of comic book nerd, wanting to be a superhero, and he lived in a world where as a kid there was the potential for him to be that. So in that moment when his heart is broken, when he realizes he's not going to have a quirk, I like feel that moment with him, and I love Deku. I love little Izuku because he's just such a good boy, like all of our shonen boys, such a good boy, and I just can relate to him on that level of kind of being the underdog nerd. I mean, I'm not an underdog in any story, but just, I don't know, kind of the whole nerdy aspect of his life, the comic book culture in his life, looking up to a hero, wanting to embody everything that hero does, I think is a really powerful part of his story, is he has big shoes to fill and learning how to fill those shoes along the way.
I really like the nerdiness that you mentioned because it also enables him to be stronger. I think one of the first things we see is he has this notebook where he takes notes of pro heroes and their stuff, and throughout the series he still uses it. Even in the manga, he's still using it, and his personality of being really smart and really meticulous about his fangirliness actually empowers him, which is really fun and not something we see a lot in shonen.
In those moments when he's just kind of like muttering plans and just he's very uncomfortable. They like vote for him to be the class leader, but he is not that at all, which is kind of different from a lot of shonen heroes who are usually very like loud and boisterous. But Deku is a bit more reserved and quiet, where, you know, if Naruto, he probably would have wanted to be the class representative, but he wouldn't have gotten the votes for it. We see Deku kind of on the other end of that spectrum, which makes him interesting to watch.
Is there anything else about his personality that stands out to you that makes him different from the other shonen heroes we have?
What I was going to say is kind of his portrayal of emotion. We do see him fairly emotional a lot, but then I guess thinking about it more, it's there's a lot more forced smiling and powering through tears and things like that, which can be inspirational, I think, in a show like this. I just find him to be such an inspirational character, and he's our good shonen boy, making us want to do our best and push ourselves beyond what we ever could.
And his dream, not too much to say about it. He wants to be the number one hero, which specifically just means he's the strongest, able to save the most people. I don't think he's really in it for the vanity of that number one spot, like Endeavor might be. I think he just wants to be the strongest and capable of saving people.
And something you mentioned earlier in the episode that I liked is the show just has a very simple setup, which makes it easy to get into. I think some anime can get lost in like this complex, here's all these things you need to know. But here it's just like, okay, people have quirks. Deku wants to be the number one quirk. And from there is just so much that happens. Even where I am in the anime, I just like think back and there's just like so many little arcs here. There's the area arc, there is the tournament arc, there are like, arcs that are more villain based, then there's arcs within the school. There's just so much that has happened in this show already within not even their first year, and it's just crazy. It's crazy.
And the major bombshell you just got to that really connects our inherited destiny with our power and progression system is Deku's power and One for All. One for All. It's hard to keep those straight.
Yeah.
It's not just this super strength, but it's every power passed down from the other predecessors. And so now part of his journey is mastering all of those. He couldn't even use the super strength fully. I don't think he can. He had hurts himself. But now he has all these other things to manage all of a sudden, and he's like the only person who knows about it, and he's the only person who has ever had to do this, because normally you just have one quirk. There's even, I'll just tease you, listeners, I won't say anything more, but there's even more to this inherited destiny aspect of One for All that I think only gets stronger as the story goes on. At first, I won't lie, I was a little iffy on him getting all these powers. Feels really powerful, all of a sudden he has super strength and Spider-Man webs and other things you don't even know about. But I think the implication and the story narrative elements of those powers are really cool, and in time you'll see what I mean.
Yeah, no, I'm into it already. I liked how the power was introduced, kind of the whole freak out thing, all that stuff was fun, and I'm in for it. I love a good inherited destiny, and I think it's done really well in My Hero, and it kind of keeps zooming back the inherited destiny, because already just from the get-go it's like, okay, how is he going to be the number one hero, this awkward shy kid? How is he going to live up to this standard? And now there's this whole other door unlocked of, okay, there's a lot more to this power than we maybe initially thought, and there's more to this destiny, there's more to this piece of hair that you ate than you maybe initially thought, and that's really cool, and it's done, and I think in a really interesting way. We kind of complained a lot during the Attack on Titan episode on how the power system is done in a weird way where it feels like we're only just getting to a lot of what it can do right at the end of the series. But here in My Hero, I think we already thought we knew everything about All for One, and now there is a whole nother layer to it that we're unlocking, and I think that is a really cool way of doing it. We think we've kind of, okay, Deku's got it under control, he's just going to master this and it's going to be awesome, but it's like, oh wait, there's more to it, and it's just going to keep, if it keeps working like that, that's a nice way of doing it, rather than being like, here's all the stuff you need to know about the power. But this kind of gradual introduction of it, I think, is a really smooth way of showing Deku mastering his power.
Well said. Let's talk about the power some more.
Yeah.
Because by now it's quirks, or kose, which, by the way, as a little translator's note, literally just means like personality, like quirk of personality. So back when Deku didn't have his power, it was like he was missing a piece of what it meant to be normal in this society. And that's actually what I kind of want to talk about. Before we get into the narrative of the quirks, though, you either have them or you don't. And some are crazy and some are pretty tame. You could be able to squirt water, or you can be able to manipulate gravity. There's all kinds of in between. And I want to talk about the narrative implications of quirks, but before we get to those, you were saying you liked them because they remind you of what iconic shonen thing?
Ah, yes. They remind me of stands a little bit in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, just in the fact that quirks, everybody has them, and everybody has a different, unique quirk, and it's the way that people use them that make them truly powerful. Like Lemillion are one of the big three heroes in the senior class at UA, has a weird quirk, but the way he uses it is what makes it super incredibly powerful. And we see that in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure too. Later on in part 3 and beyond, there's some really weird stands that people have, but the ways that they use them is what makes them powerful. And that's what gives them their advantage, is kind of like outsmarting them, and these battle of wits that it kind of comes down to in the end, where yes, there are these brute strength quirks and things like that, but that's not what's always going to win at the end of the day. There is some kind of thought and meticulous, yeah, you know what I mean. There's just some more effort that has to be put into being a hero than just, okay, I'm going to throw a big punch at this villain.
And I think it plays really well into the school setting, because as they learn more about their quirks from a book standpoint, they can use their quirks in a new way, even ones that are considered powerful already. Like Bakugo's explosion, he makes more powerful. He listened one day in physics class, and he learned about angular momentum. Next day in the tournament arc, he's adding a spin move to his attack, and he's 10 times more powerful. And that's based on like reality. It's based on him learning more about the world. And we just love seeing people use powers creatively. It's always a good time.
And I love that it always does kind of go back to the school element. Again, I don't know why I keep relating back to Naruto today, but like they're supposed to be in school kind of in Naruto a lot of the time and learning about how to be a ninja, but we often forget about that because they're off doing some kind of crazy adventure. But in My Hero, like, it's always brought back to, okay, maybe they're on a crazy little adventure, but the school is somehow involved or monitoring them, or it is taking place like on the campus, or we have a whole arc where they're just training and learning and mastering, where we actually see them grow and get stronger in a way I don't think we see in a lot of other shonen, where it's just a quick training arc and they come back and they're stronger. Here we really see a progression unlike any other shonen, and I think out of all the shows we talked about, I think it does power and progression the best, just because it does both power and progression in such a phenomenal way. It hits on both of those, where we grow with the heroes and their powers.
It's a hot take, but I definitely agree. The last thing I'll add on to this pillar of powers and progression is the story uses the powers narratively well as well. It's not just seeing people use the powers in a cool way. The world and how it's influenced by the powers matters more and more as you get into the story. Gotta be careful again. I don't know exactly where we're at in the anime, but the author, Horikoshi, as the story went on, really decided to examine what quirks would do to society. At first, I've even heard this from a friend before, it seems kind of lazy that it's kind of, the story is just set in Japan. Like, it's just set in like a Tokyo thing. That's just kind of the thing that shonens are doing now. Jujutsu Kaisen seems set in like a Japan. You know, if you're not sure what kind of world, just slap it in modern Japan. It'll be fine. But this story, actually, as you get deeper into it, examines what it means for a society to be built on not just these powers, but heroes. Like, in the episode we just watched, the latest one, Endeavor said, or it's an Endeavor agency, said they responded to 100 calls that day. If a society has 100 things going on in just this small neighborhood that need, like, superheroes response to, something's going wrong there. And I love that My Hero doesn't back away from those questions, and as you get further and further, really examines what's going on in the society, and should it change, or is it okay? And I'll just leave it at that, but I think it does raise some interesting questions with the powers.
Yeah, and I guess with what you're saying there in society, maybe this bleeds into the crew a little bit. I think, too, with My Hero, it does a good job of showing the society, and we do root for our heroes, but we also do have a pretty compelling cast of villains, and I know you can't fully get into all the stuff that you want to with the villains, as you've hinted to me before, but it does just a really great job of showing this whole world, you know, as not being just kind of black and white, good and bad heroes. There's a lot more to it.
So let's talk about some of the inhabitants of that world, the crew, our last pillar.
Yeah, I guess we'll start with our main crew here, and I guess that would be Class 1A is our crew as a whole. We have so many characters here, but the ones I guess that would be most important are, of course, we've already talked about Midoriya, or Deku, or Izuku, whatever you want to call them. There's Bakugo, there is Todoroki, there is Uraraka, there is Ida, and Who else would be important off this list? I guess
There's a bunch of
there's
them.
just so many. There's Momo. There's
Well, see, so rather than look at them all individually, I think if we zoom out to just the class as a whole, I think this show delivers really, really well on some of these characters and not so on the others. And it's no surprise that we can't name them all, because not all of them are that important. I mean, it's a big joke that Invisible Girl is in 1A, but there's a lot of characters in 1A, just to focus on the negative for a moment, that are really easily forgettable. There's the Sugar Rush guy, there's the animal guy, there's the tentacle Batman. And I'm not going to lie and say that these characters matter a lot. They, they're just kind of there. There's kind of the background. And the show kind of sets up that they're all going to matter. They're all in this class. But unfortunately, not every star can shine as brightly as some of the really heavy hitters in the show.
And just while we're talking on this kind of down point, I did want to echo it and just say that it's such a bummer that we see so many other heroes in like class 1B and stuff like that feel like they should be in 1A, like just have some really cool and interesting quirks. And
Shout outs to my man Shinso, the mind controller.
Yeah, for real. Like, how is he not in the hero courses, yet Sticky Ball Head, Perv Boy can make it through the test? Like, we're supposed to believe that these kids made it through the test. Like, we saw the entrance exam that they all had to take, and to believe that some of these kids made it through, it's hard for me to wrap my head around. How did Sugar Rush, how did Bert, like, Animal Talker Boy make it to class 1A? Like, that is like what kind of upsets me about some of the characters, is like when we see such powerful quirk, I almost said stand users. When we see such powerful quirks in other classes, like what are these kids doing here?
If we have big Sugar Rush stans listening, please find us on Twitter at Bravery Punch. Let us know how the Sugar Rush guy or Invisible Girl made it through, because we are genuinely lost. But to flip it around and look at the positives, when this story, this manga, this show, when it does well for the characters, I think it pops off. I mean, we were just, in the first half, we were getting all emotional about one family, and I think there are a lot of characters that get that same treatment.
Well, I think Uraraka, for example, we have some really great moments for her where we see her motivation for being a hero is because her parents kind of struggled financially, so she wants to become a hero to support her family. And then looking at Ida, he wants to be a hero because he has an inherited destiny of his own. He wants to live up to his family names of, oh my gosh, I can never pronounce it. Ingenium. He wants to live up to their name. So it does a great job of giving each hero their own dream. And I think that's what always makes a crew work its best, is when each crew member has their own dream that they're working towards, and it just kind of works alongside our main character's dream.
And then as the story progresses, the adult or teacher or hero characters also matter more and more, and we see them as more people with their own dream. Like Endeavor, we've talked about getting his little redemption arc. Hawks has a lot going on in the anime that we're just starting to find out about. All Might goes from this Superman pinnacle of justice to a really broken man trying to do his best. And all the teachers, like Aizawa, oh my gosh, there's even more with him. Like, they all get moments of humanization, characterization that I really love, and it's probably one thing that keeps me reading every week.
Yeah, it does a really great job of showing us this weird and wacky world. And another critique I will say on kind of the crew and heroes here is, I don't get why Bakugo and Deku are friends, or why Midoriya is so set on wanting to be friends with Bakugo. Everything we have seen is him being bullied by him, and I just don't get why he wants to be his friend so badly. I just don't get it.
This is bound to come up eventually. If I've talked about this show with anyone in the past 3 years, it's been about this topic. I think it's quite honestly the worst. I would go as far as say the worst aspect of this show, this story even. This dynamic makes zero sense. At worst, it's abusive, and at best, it's just delusional. Deku and Bakugo's friendship makes zero sense. I don't know why the author tries to force this in. If you want to see a good example of this kind of rival friendship done right, just watch Haikyuu. Like, I don't know what they're trying to accomplish with this. And the less Bakugo Deku content we get, the more I'm into the story, unfortunately.
I agree. I think like those moments of them fighting are just like, ugh, again, we really have to see this fight play out again. Like, why? I will say I do think recently in some episodes we've kind of seen some more, I guess, humanization from Bakugo. He hasn't been so one note, where we're seeing a lot more emotion come out of him, which I'm appreciating. We saw him like be sad thinking about Best Jeanist and stuff like that. We're seeing him in that last like training arc actually kind of have some development with his fighting style and protecting his friends as he fights. So we are seeing some growth from him in that aspect, but it is so annoying to just see that same squabble happen like 500 times throughout the series.
And one more downer, and then we will wrap up with everything we love about this show, because I'm actually a big fan. I really am. Big fan. But my last other downer on the crew is pretty often in the manga, especially, the female or girl heroes are kind of sidelined when they have some really interesting powers going on. Like in the Overhaul raid, for example, we have the dragon hero Ryugoku with Tsuyu, with Uraraka, with Nejire Hado, whose power is just like waveforms. Crazy. We don't even see that at all, unfortunately. And Horikoshi tries to give like Momo some stuff. He tries to give her some moments, but it always just feels like she didn't matter before and he's just kind of remembering her. Like Mina, Acid Girl, doesn't, I mean, I like her. She's cool. She shares a voice actor from another anime I love, but she isn't as narratively important as like Todoroki, incredibly important. And so that's unfortunately a problem with shonen in general, but something that's just worth mentioning.
Yeah. And another thing I will say, I guess, about the crew, the cast as a whole, is this is a show that I think does a really great job with character design. I don't know about great job, but it does a good job of doing unique and fun character designs for everybody. Everyone's got like a weird, distinct look, sometimes very weird and very distinct, and just why why is there a cement man? How did that happen? I don't know.
Gang Orca, the whale man.
How did they turn into these people? We don't know. But I do love the character design in it. I think it's so fun. And every character like pops. Their costume design is really fun. I always love when a new hero comes out in a new costume and stuff like that. So it does deliver, I feel like, on all three of the pillars as a good shonen should. We have just a solid hero and dream. It's very like simple and streamlined, but it's easy to wrap our head around, and as the show's going on, it's kind of getting bigger and bigger, which is really awesome to see. Power and progression, like I said, I think it's just done the best out of all the shows we've talked about, because we see Deku get his power and we see how he evolves with his power from like moment to moment, and then we do have a really solid, fun crew. I would say maybe it's its weakest pillar because it doesn't deliver on everybody in the class, but we do have a really like strong set of classmates alongside Deku.
If I sounded harsh on this show, it's only because I know Horikoshi has shown us by this point that he's an author capable of doing some really great things within this format. He has already made us cry, whether on the page or on the TV screen, and I know he's getting better and better as he writes. So, I've got some complaints, but overall, totally agree, Austin. This absolutely delivers on all three pillars. If you are a fan of shonen, superheroes, or just great anime, you cannot miss My Hero. It's like
totally redefined, I think, how a tournament arc can be done.
Ooh.
And I just love the tournament arc. It's so fast paced, so well done. Like, I don't know, we have we've already spoiled a lot if you're here at this point, but like the fact that like Deku doesn't win the tournament, I think is really interesting, and hopefully there might be another sports festival one day. I don't know. In the manga, are they still in their first year?
No.
Is it summer? It's like summer break maybe now? Or
It is not summer break.
Oh, whoa. Whoa. All right, but cool. Because it's still just like, it's crazy. It's their first year, and they've been going through a lot.
A lot happens to these poor heroes in training.
Is there anything else you want to say here about My Hero Academia before we wrap up?
I will say the punch that My Hero throws is not quite at 100% full cowling yet, but with enough training and time, it might just get there. I'm Doki Duffy.
And I'm Kunai Kennie, and this probably won't be the last time we talk about My Hero Academia, as it is still airing. The manga is still running, so there'll be plenty more to talk about in this show in the future. Plenty more shonen to come with Bravery Punch. Tune in every other Friday, and stay brave.
Find us on Twitter at Bravery Punch. You can find our email in our Twitter bio. Let us know what you think about each and any episode. We want to hear from you, and let us know what you want to hear next. Our next episode is as of yet not decided, so send us your thoughts. Stay brave, everyone.